Okay, now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our very special guest speaker, Jhenna Strasser. Jen is the head of the Southern Nevada Human Trafficking Task Force and also a 7-year, I believe, member of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. You all have seen her background on the invite, so I won't go into that, but she's also a native Las Vegan. And I for one, love native Las Vegans because I am one. Yeah. And she has a 1.5-year-old son, married to, what's his name? Nico. And so this is an amazing lady. I've really enjoyed getting to know her a little bit today, and I think we're all going to really enjoy and benefit from her talk. So please give a warm CDN welcome to Jhenna Strasser.
Hi everyone, my name is Jhenna Strasser. I'm going to try to stay on the stage, but I like to walk around, so if it's distracting, let me know. Like he said, I'm a part of the Southern Nevada Human Trafficking Task Force. If you don't know what that is, it's made up of both governmental and non-governmental agencies, and we all just really work hard together on things like direct victim services, investigations, prosecutions, all the way out to outreach and trainings like this one. So I know I have one of the partners here today, Annie Lobert is on the task force with us, so I just want to give her a shout out. She's amazing. And we're going to talk about trafficking today. So I'm going to give kind of a general background first and kind of go into what the landscape here is in Las Vegas. So first things first, some of the stuff in here can be hard to hear. Some of the stuff is very triggering and traumatic. So anytime you feel uncomfortable, feel free to step out. If you need to take a phone call, use the bathroom, whatever it is, my feelings won't get hurt. Please feel free to take care of yourself at any point during this presentation. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is labor trafficking. So labor trafficking, I'm going to read directly the definition. It might be easier if I look down here. It is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor services through the use of force, fraud, and coercion. So those three things are things that us as law enforcement needs. So force, I want you to think about kind of like the physical abuse. It could be punching, kicking, it could be sexual assault, it could be physical confinement, things like that. Fraud is, I want you to think about false promises. So the promise of love, the promise of a better job, a better life, the promise of making more money. And then lastly, coercion. So this is oftentimes what we learn from survivors is why they stay the most. It's the threat of something. So the threat to hurt your family member, to hurt your kids, the threat to send pictures to your job. So it's a threat of doing something. It may not be physical, but it might make you rethink the situation or force you to do something you don't want to do because you're protecting someone else. The different types of labor trafficking we often see, the first is the top one, so debt bondage. Oftentimes when we come in contact with a victim of labor trafficking, they have a debt or something to pay off. So it'd be like, I tell Robin, hey, I have a job for you here in Las Vegas, I'll fly you out here and I even have a house for you. Once he gets here, I say, well, I can't exactly pay you yet. I flew you out here, I gave you a house and there's food in there. You're gonna have to pay off that debt. And it's gonna come out to like 80 grand. And you're shocked, but that's the average that we hear is like, we owe 80 grand. And so that is kind of like a goalpost. It just keeps moving forward and forward. Oh, you took a bathroom break today? That's going to be an extra $100. Oh, you took a lunch, you grabbed water? We're going to add more to that. Forced labor, this is oftentimes where we see the physical abuse. So forcing them to work while physically abusing them or sexually abusing them. Child labor, and then involuntary domestic servitude. This is often in home, so it might be a nanny. It might be someone who cleans the home. It might be a home health nurse, things like that. Peonage, slavery, mail order bride. Oftentimes I get questions on the bottom like, oh, that's consensual. So it could be. But like I said before, with the fraud, that false promise, the promise of marriage, the promise of love, but then when you get here, it's something totally different. They change up on you. Smuggling versus trafficking. So we like to talk about this because these are used interchangeably. People often say smuggling and trafficking and think it's the same thing, but it's not. So with smuggling, it's often consensual. You know, I am telling Robin, okay, I can get you here, from here to here. You just pay me this fee, and the transaction's done. With trafficking, there doesn't need to be transportation involved. So I don't need to labor traffic a victim, and it's from California to Nevada. I can labor traffic someone who is a local here. So just keeping that in mind that although smuggling, there's like an element of consent, it may leave that person vulnerable to be exploited. So we see that a lot where, you know, they get here, the transaction's done, but they don't know the language, they don't know where they're staying at, they don't have documentation, whatever it may be, and that person says, well, I have a job for you, or I have something that can help you out. I have a friend where you can live with. And then it goes on over again. Sex trafficking. This is probably the one that everyone knows most about. It's literally the same thing. We still need that element of force, fraud, and coercion, but it was only different unless the victim is under 18. There's no element of consent needed there. They are children. There's no such thing as a child prostitute. We want to make sure that if they're under the age of 18, we will still charge the sex trafficking charge. So these two maps right here, they are the amount of calls that went into the National Human Trafficking Hotline. How many knew that we had a National Human Trafficking Hotline? Okay, good. What do people notice about this map? You can just shout it out.
East Coast.
California, the coast, good. Big cities, thank you. So all of you are correct. Population's a huge thing. Transportation hubs, huge thing. We have an international airport here. Coasts have international airports. They have ports of ships leaving. Also, as you can see, it affects everyone. Every state has a red dot, and ours is unfortunately in Las Vegas. One of the things I always like to say is we look at stats, we look at everything, and they're not always all-inclusive. One, because not many people have the training to identify, but two, victims cannot self-identify that they're in this situation. I mean, how many of us Google, I have a headache and my eye is burning, and you look up and you have glaucoma, but it's not glaucoma, it's Wiki telling you that. These victims are experiencing things, and if you're going to a training and it says human trafficking, you're not going to identify that I'm a victim of human trafficking. You may say, oh, I'm a victim of my boyfriend is hitting me, but you may not identify as a human trafficking victim. So keeping that in mind too, when we use language, when we speak with survivors, human trafficking may not be the first thing on their mind that they think they're going through. So these are the stats from LVNPD of 2024. shocking?
Yes.
Okay. I think the 2 points we always like to talk about is a majority of children that we recover are local children. So it's not people traveling here, it's children in our neighborhood, it's families in our neighborhood that are being trafficked. And just to give you an age, the youngest child that we recovered was 8 years old. So the demand. Without the demand, there would be no supply. So, just to give you an understanding, right now it's the second largest criminal industry in the world, behind drug trafficking. And it's the fastest growing industry. Which is why, the legislative session is in. We try to push for higher penalties for buyers, higher penalties for traffickers, because of this reason. Up top is a map. These are the routes of domestic sex trafficking. Just like the common tracks that we see victims going through when they're traveling with their trafficker. What do people notice about this map? Specifically Las Vegas. All roads lead to Vegas. So when we speak to survivors, one of the things they say is in their experience when they were being trafficked, they've come to Las Vegas at one point in their experience. Now what does that mean is that we are uniquely situated to help and support these victims. We have an opportunity because they're eventually going to come here, that it's up to our community to support them. So just keep that in mind. Human trafficking, like I was saying earlier, it's really hard to self-identify as human trafficking. And when we go out as VICE, when we respond to a call, it's not necessarily a human trafficking call. We get calls out for domestic violence, because oftentimes there's a relationship between the victim and the trafficker. They've manipulated them, they've built a rapport, built a relationship, and now the victim is calling us saying, my boyfriend hit me, and then we find out later on that he's been trafficking her. We get calls for sexual assault, and that's both by buyers and by traffickers. And then we also get calls, and there's this concept of forced criminality. So we get calls where these victims are forced to steal items. So, and I want to put it in perspective, I use this all the time, where if you had a choice to have sex with multiple men in one night, to make a quota, and sometimes that quota is like $3,000 a night, would you do that, or would you steal a watch off of the bedside? Would you steal money off the bedside? And if it was me, one part of it is going to kill my soul, and one of it is like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this instead so I can avoid this. And sometimes traffickers are even saying, you need to do both. So a lot of the times with our survivors, they have criminal histories, they have bad credit, they have all these barriers because they're forced to do these things daily. And then this is just a video of a survivor who had her experience here in Las Vegas. If it will play. Cool.
I was born and raised in a small town in Southern Oregon, and I was a good kid in school. I grew up in a normal middle-class family. I got great grades. I was really active in sports, and I even graduated a year early. I was accepted into Oregon State University, and I had my dorm room already assigned, and I was really excited to move up to Corvallis. But that summer, I got pregnant by my boyfriend, and I had to make a real tough decision whether I was going to keep my baby and unenroll from university or get an abortion and keep it all a secret. That was a really tough summer for me. After I had the baby, I had some friends that had gone up to U of O to go to college, and they had an extra room in one of their apartments. It was at that time that I met a boy or a guy who pretended to take interest in me. I really thought he liked me, and we got along really well. He was really funny and charming, and He had a nice car, and he always picked up the tab, he had nice clothes. And he told me he was a record producer, that he had a band up in Portland. And that's why he frequently went out of town. There's a saying that says, when you take a child by the hand, you take the mother by the heart. And I really think that's what happened for me, because I had this new little girl, and this man who showed this desperate attention towards her, like he wanted to really help make this family that I really wanted for my daughter. And he invited me to move in with him after about 6 months of dating, and I was really excited. And I brought him down to Southern Oregon to meet my family, and everything seemed fine until we arrived in Las Vegas. He said we were moving there because that was the entertainment capital of the world, and being a record producer and having a band, that's where they were going to get the most gigs and the most jobs, and that's where his job was leading him. So I desperately wanted to go with him, to be with him, and to start this family that he promised me. He pulled up to an escort service, and he said, "This is how it works in Vegas. I've spent a lot of money to get you here. I put first and last on an apartment. I filled your fridge up with food. And you're going to need to earn that money back." And I felt trapped. I felt like, how am I going to get out of this? And you didn't know if you were going to live or die. You didn't know what he was going to do or what he was capable of. And so it was really scary. I can remember just running through the casino thinking, these people don't even have a clue what's going on. We're just, cha-ching, cha-ching, Las Vegas, yay! And you're doing all this stuff, and I'm running for my life. I'm running from a man that has forced me into doing things that I didn't want to do. When you have a trafficker that's waiting at home with your child and says, if you don't bring home $1,500, you're going to find your daughter out on the corner, I think I was probably more frightened to go home than I was to be in the room. Because if you got robbed, it was your fault for being stupid. If you got raped, it was your fault for not watching your back. Anything that happened to you was typically your fault, and you incurred more punishment for allowing those things to happen to you. So it made you always walk in fear of your trafficker.
So we like to show this video because people think that human trafficking looks like Taken, and Liam Neeson's going to save the world. But it is most likely like this. A trafficker builds a relationship. And I mean, how many of us, at a basic human level, we all want to be loved, we all want community, we want family, and traffickers use that need to exploit their victims. So it looks like that. It looks like a normal dating experience. 6 months, you meet the family, you get to know him and you live with him. It's just on the other side of their experiences, it turns out to be different, and it's not normal. So just keeping that in mind, that when you're looking for what trafficking looks like or what a victim may look like, it's not your typical movie scenario. It looks like these kind of stories. Which brings me into dispelling myths. We see all of this on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. There's a zip tie on the car, and everyone's like, oh, this is human trafficking. I'm here to say it is not. Is it weird? Yes. Could it be possibly dangerous? Could there be someone who has ulterior motives? Yes. But these are not the signs of human trafficking. And we say that not only so that you all can spot what it looks like, but also, like I said earlier, to self-identify. If the survivor sees these things, oh, you're only a human trafficking survivor if you went in a white van, or there were zip ties on your car, then they're going to say, well, I guess I'm not a survivor, I guess I'm not a victim, because my experience didn't look like that. So we got to dispel these myths to help our community identify, but help these survivors self-identify as well. Indicators. So all of these are not all-inclusive, and I don't want you to see one of these and be like, oh my God, she's a survivor, I need to call VICE right away. I want you to listen to your gut, and that's what I always tell people. If something feels off, I want you to listen to that. I don't expect you to jump in front of them and try to involve yourself, but maybe you can take what they look like. Maybe a license plate. Maybe if the victim is separated from the trafficker, saying, hey, do you need help? Do you need someone to support you? Things like that. This is what we ask of you. So the first couple show signs of fear, anxiety, submission, nervousness. Usually there's someone speaking on their behalf. We see it all the time where we'll have a survivor, an individual there, and someone else is speaking for them, answering all the questions. So if I do something as simple as, what's your name? The other person's answering. Oh, what are you doing here in Vegas today? The other person is answering. The other person might have their documents, might have IDs, their passports, things like that. They might show different bruising, scars, evidence of physical abuse at different stages of healing. They might be groups of males or females, and they might have something called soft branding or hard branding. So oftentimes these traffickers will have their victims tattooed with the same branding. It could be the trafficker's name, moniker, it could be something else, and all of the same individuals have similar tattoos, or what we've seen more recently is a little bit of soft branding. It could look like jewelry, it could be a necklace, and the trafficker is just wearing a larger necklace. It could be bracelets, things like that. Individuals loitering in public spaces, being approached by several individuals. So we often see these in casinos. It could be at bars, it could be on the floor, and usually there's like a pattern of behavior going on. They might have a history of being trespassed from resorts or properties. They might show signs of malnourishment, poor hygiene, fatigue. They might have multiple hotel keys or several different room keys from different properties. And one key one I want to say is they may not be sure about their whereabouts, or they don't have a lot of their possessions. So a lot of the times this kind of life is very manipulative and coercion and a lot of control going on. So if you don't have control over your identity, over where you are, or, I mean, we all take trips all the time. I know my itinerary, I know the hotel room, what car I'm gonna rent, things like that. If someone is staying here and they have no idea, that might be a red flag. So what do you do? Assess the situation and level of urgency. If it is emergent, if you see a physical violence going on, if you see a crime being committed, call 911. If it's non-emergency, call 311. Usually how our process works is patrol goes out there and then they'll say, hey, this is human trafficking related, they call Vice out for us. Another thing you can do, if there is a tip, if you have a feeling that your neighbor is doing something weird, they have the same a couple different individuals going inside of their house, Ubers dropping them off, things like that. We have had the community email us. So it's vice@lvmpd.com. It's not monitored 24/7, but I promise you, within 24 hours, it is always investigated. So if you tell me Elvis is trafficking girls underground, we're gonna go take a look. I promise you. They don't have any care in the world because sometimes that stuff might be legitimate. So even if you're afraid, like, oh, I don't want a false report, I don't want to get in trouble with the police, please just give the tip. That's what we ask. And when you do spot something or you are aware of something, I just want you to be the best witness possible. I don't want you to intervene, I don't want you to do any of that, but get what they are wearing, get what they look like, get the license plate. Like I was saying, be the best witness you can be. And let's say you come in contact with a victim or survivor that just wants resources, doesn't want law enforcement there. That is okay. Call the local advocate hotline and get resources. I run the task force and it's a great collaboration with multiple agencies. So if one agency can't help, there are 13 others that will step in and help out because they all serve a different purpose. And like I said, don't put yourself in danger by trying to intervene. So just calls to action. You can follow us on social media. We have public forums. On April 30th, we actually have a volunteer fair day. So if you or your networks or anyone wants to volunteer, intern, have practicum placements, we're having like a little like job fair, but it's for volunteers, and to come out and meet all the agencies and get to know what you can do to help these community members. And then use your skills. If you don't necessarily need to work in this field, if you have a skill that might be beneficial, reach out. I've had people say, like, I don't really work in this field, but I run a ranch with horses. Hey, we'll help out. We do like equine therapy now. So even if you think you may not be in the field to help, there might be something for you to do. So don't be afraid to reach out to me or reach out to, I know Annie's here, to let us know what your skills are or who your connections are in this field. And then spread the word, raise your voice. There's a bunch of misinformation out there. You have now been trained by the task force. Please step up and say something. If something is misinformation or something seems off, don't be afraid to say anything. And finally, this is just all the members of the task force. I know there were some back here that wanted connections to different human trafficking agencies. You can QR code that and take a picture. All of the agencies are on there. So it'll connect you to their website. And that is all I have.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow. We have time for about 3 questions. So I'm going to hand the microphone to whoever would like to ask the first question. Skip, can you just speak loudly?
Yeah, I'm just curious, how often are current victims used to attract or grab new victims? How often do you see that happen?
So oftentimes, yes, the trafficker will use the victims they have under control to recruit. That is a thing, and it does happen pretty often. So one of the things that we've done, because a lot of the times victims don't want to move forward with court, it's a scary thing, we have proactive teams that if a victim doesn't want to come forward, we send our undercover people out there and get the trafficker on a different charge. So that's one way that we've kind of mitigated something like that when they're recruiting and they're afraid to come forward. We'll use our undercover operations to do that.
I'm loud. I don't think you might, but hey, I'm Mike. So the person that we just saw, will a record be erased since it was forced human trafficking?
So we do have partners that work on, what is it called, record sealing? That's what I'm looking for. But it depends on the crime. Right now in Las Vegas, the legislation, you can only record seal, I think it's like prostitution charges, but with like felony theft charges, like you're forced to steal stuff, that stuff is not covered in legislation. So that's where we need help on our constituents to help change some of these laws to make it easier accessible, because right now there's only a few charges that are allowed. So that's where we're at with that one.
Hi.
Hi.
A few years back, we had unusual activity at the house right next door to us that was rented. I didn't think too much about it other than I never saw my neighbors. Okay. And never saw them bring in groceries or anything. It was always takeout in their trash. We had a neighbor across the street. She came home at 2 or 3 in the morning. We were in bed. And she saw this car pull in, garage door go up. 5 minutes later it leaves, comes back 30 minutes later, etc. So we ended up reporting that to some undercover police officers. They came out. Ended up being a brothel. And but it was sort of undercover because who's up between 1 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning. Is this still fairly prevalent here in Las Vegas?
Yes. So brothels, illicit massage parlors is what we, or illicit massage businesses is what we call them. Right now, the ones that we know of are over 200. That's not including houses like that we have no idea that's what's going on, but it is still very prevalent. It's a little difficult because when one closes, another one opens. Right now we're opening an international squad, which is going to focus on kind of the criminal organizations. So we're going to try to cut the head off at this point. So instead of doing those small investigations that do each individual brothel, we're going to try to find the head honcho. So that will be coming up, and we'll try to tackle it from there, and we'll see. But yes, it is very prevalent.
Jenna, if people have questions, would you?
Yeah, I'll stay after.
You'll
So,
stay after,
yes.
and if they need to contact you,
Yes.
what's the best way to
Yeah, so you can email me. It is, I don't know if you want to email it out to them or you guys want to write it down, but it's j17612s@lvnpd.com.
And I have that email, so if anyone would like to follow up with Jenna, I'll be happy to send it your email.
Yes, thank you.
Guys, how about another big round of applause? Thank you so much. Would you hand the microphone to Laura? Laura Wadley on our board is going to pray us out today.
Thank you, Robin. Also on your table, we have a flyer. I'm here with Capstone Christian Academy, one of the sponsors for this wonderful organization. It's our first annual, and whether you golf or not, we have several people that have signed up that have never even held a golf club, but we are going to have fun. So if you'd like to have a fun afternoon and benefit a Christian school, we would love to have you come out. So if you'll bow your head, I'll pray us out. Father God, thank you so much for this time, for the nourishment both for our bodies, but also for our minds and souls. Father, we pray for those that are involved in trafficking and don't know how to identify it. Help us to be the community that helps to see, helps to inform, and helps to report what we find. Lord, we are uniquely placed being in this beautiful city that you have given to us of Las Vegas, and we are uniquely charged to call the light to this dark place. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.